Using different phone systems and devices to manage your practice is a headache. Open Phone makes it simple with a single app that brings your business calls, texts, and contacts into a single place across all your devices. Activate your 7-day free trial and get 20% off your first 6 months when you sign up at openphone.com/Joe. Again, that's openphone.com/Joe. This is the Practice of the Practice podcast with Joe Sanok, session number 1043. I'm Joe Sanok, your host, and welcome to the Practice of the Practice podcast. I am so excited that you are here with me today. We, 5 days a week now, are helping you to grow a thriving practice you absolutely love. We want to help you figure out all those complicated things that we never learn in graduate school, whether it's marketing or legal or all the different things that come in and out of our practices. And I'm so excited today to have Scott Reib with me. Scott's back on the show and is known as America's Legal Coach. He's the official Zig Ziglar small business lawyer, a Ziglar Legacy certified trainer, and he has over 20 years of experience as an attorney. For the last 2 decades, Scott has been helping business owners, entrepreneurs, coaches, and service providers to shatterproof their businesses and succeed in the professional world. Scott, welcome to the Practice podcast.
Hey, Joe, thanks for having me back. It's good to see you.
Yeah, really glad to have you here. And you've got a new book out, which I want to definitely talk about, all around the idea of shatterproofing our business. And, when I think about a counseling private practice, one thing that goes back to me and my practice was I remember the first big legal issue I had. And one of my therapists came to me and said there was kind of all these things that had happened. And luckily, I had an attorney that I had met with probably 2 years before to just kind of go over the risk of my business and have some basic plans. And I was so glad that I could just not have to worry about figuring out what to do in that legal situation. Would love to start with businesses that are shattered. So counseling practices that are shattered. What do they have in common? What are some kind of typical things that they aren't doing or that they are doing that set up their risk for just, some really tough things?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of go back to the very basics that you have to have a solid foundation for any business or practice, and that is having the right legal structure. And it's hard to believe that there's still today professionals that just hang their shingle, so to speak. They don't and don't actually incorporate a practice. There's so many different ways that you can do that, but if you don't form a professional corporation, professional limited liability company, professional association, some of those choices, then you are your practice and you are personally liable for everything and anything that happens. And there's so much exposure when you're in the mental health and wellness world that that you just can't do that. So you have to take that first step of making sure you've created separation from you and your practice so that the liability doesn't come home and wipe out your personal assets and things you've worked so hard to build. And so that's kind of step one. And then there's some easy things also on the HIPAA side of a practice that you've got to make sure that you're using systems and that you're monitoring the people that work with you, that they're using HIPAA compliant systems to manage your practice. And you would think that would be a no-brainer too, but it's not always. Some people just don't do that. And you start violating those rules, you get in big trouble fast. And then the other thing would be kind of similar to that is that they're disclosing information that they aren't required to. What I see a lot in this area is where there's domestic relations cases and someone starts asking for records, and because it comes on attorney letterhead, they get scared and they start sending things they shouldn't without a court order.
Yeah. So what are some examples of disclosure of things that they maybe are sharing that they shouldn't be sharing? Like, I mean, what comes to mind for me might be co-parents, and maybe when one co-parent talks to a therapist about something that's sensitive and then that's disclosed. Are there, like, what sort of things are you noticing?
Exactly right. yeah, you have discussions with co-parents, and then those suddenly become the subject of litigation. And if you release those without the consent of the person, or a court order, and that doesn't necessarily just mean a subpoena, but you may need to take it all the way and actually fight the subpoena if you don't think the information should be disclosed, because that privilege should be protected. And some people in this arena aren't up to the fight, and they cave quickly. And some of it's because they don't have access to legal services, so they're not able to run that up the flagpole and say, "What do I do now?" And by not having that relationship set up, they just just hand over the records and move on. And probably 8 times out of 10, there's not a problem. But those 2 times, it's a big problem. And those are the kinds of things that can, like you said, shatter a practice. It's like like people in the mental health and wellness world. I'm in the let's build lives and practices that will bend and not break. And
Mm.
and so to do that, there's just certain things you have to do from a business and legal side that a lot of practitioners don't want to do. They didn't think about the business side of things. They want to help people. And you have the skills to help people because of the hours and hours of time that you've put into it to get the license that you have. But you now have to run this business, and you have to keep it between the lines legally. And it's a lot. And so, like we talk about in the book, The Shatterproof Entrepreneur, you have to assemble a team of key advisors that can help you keep things between the lines so that you can focus on helping people.
Mm. Now, is there a clear process, or is there a way that you would say people should evaluate where they're at, start to come up with that team, and then have some action items to start to shatterproof their business?
Yeah, I mean, you always want to assess where you are. And so if there's to me there's 5 key relationships. You need to have a CPA to help you make sure you stay in compliance with the IRS and know how much money you're making or losing. And then you need to have an insurance person so they can cover you for errors and omissions, so they can cover you for general liability if you have a physical practice. So if someone were to get injured at your premises, you need to have car insurance if you're traveling around doing things for your practice. And then there may be other types, but they need to know what you're doing, understand it intimately, and give you the right recommendations. Then you need to have a banker because, unfortunately, uh, it's a business, and so you're going to need to have someone help you manage the money, have a place to get a line of credit if you were to need it to expand your practice, someone that you can talk to if there's a transaction that's questionable. And so you need to have a relationship with a banker, not just a bank. There's a bank on every corner. You need to have a relationship with a banker. And then you need to have a coach. And in my humble opinion, you need to have someone that's already gone where you're trying to go, that can see the forest for the trees when you can't, and can help hold you accountable to action steps to grow your practice if you're on a growth mode, or to just make sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing as a practice owner, so that you can keep things, like I say, between the lines and stay out of trouble. And if you don't have any of those 5, then you need to start filling that in. And it's not urgent. Like, don't get upset about it and anxious about it, but set a course to fill those positions and find people that you know, like, and trust, so that you'll spend time with them, ask them questions, so that they can really help you. Because if you just line them up and don't ever talk to them, then there really is no benefit. And they should really be introduced to each other as well, so that they can solve problems for you while you're helping people.
Mm. Yeah. Now, when you think about specifically kind of just the overall business, so once you set up that team, like how much interaction should you be having with those different roles?
The To me, the CPA and attorney is also key. You should be talking to at least monthly. It can be short calls, short conversations, but you should be touching base with them monthly so they know what's going on in your business and can make recommendations as you go throughout the year, instead of trying to play catch up when something happens. The banker probably less often, but I would think at least once a quarter you need to be sit down with your banker and make sure that the things you're using at the bank are the right products. That there's not things that could cost you less money or give you access to more capital. And then your coach, you should be talking at least biweekly to make sure that you're staying on track with whatever your plans are for that given year.
Mm. And what are some things that when you're thinking about talking with your coach, talking with attorneys, talking with your accountant. So there's always the things that you're working on currently and the things that you're kind of forward looking at. Could you kind of talk to each of those things? Like, what should people be kind of managing in regards to current, and what should they be managing in regards to future forecasting?
My philosophy is that you should have 3 or 4 what I call major projects that you're working on. Some of those could be long range, some of them could be short range. Any more than that, and as a business owner, you can't, or practice owner, you can't handle that. Any more than 4 initiatives is too much. 3 is probably perfect. And then you want to make your team aware of it. And if it's the key advisors, they should know kind of what your goals are for that year. And so you've pulled those 4 projects off of what I would call a goal sheet. And so everybody that's in business of any kind should have a goal sheet that at least has a 5-year goal on where we want to be in 5 years, and then backs that up into smaller chunks. And then to achieve those goals, you're going to have to create projects, and that's where you pull your 3 initiatives or three projects to work on. And so then you're just looking at then you back up from that, and what would be the key indicators on whether you're moving towards those goals. And you want to put those on something. You could create a dashboard for it, or just something like a journal that has a page in it that has those things on it that you can regularly touch base with, and make sure you're every day taking steps to move towards towards those, accomplishing those major projects, which take you towards your goals.
Mm. Something always comes up when you're running a private practice. Well, Gusto's payroll and HR services can make it a little easier. Gusto was designed for you, the small business owner. They take the pain out of running a business, automatically calculating paychecks, filing payroll taxes, setting up open enrollment. Gusto does it all. Want more? Time tracking, health insurance, 401k, onboarding, commuter benefits, offer letters, access to HR experts. You get the idea. With Gusto, you can focus on the joy of running your business. It's super easy to set up and get started. And if you're moving from another provider, Gusto can transfer all the data for you. It's no surprise 99% of businesses said the value they get for Gusto is worth the price. And here's the best part. Because you're a listener, you get 3 months totally free. All you have to do is go to gusto.com/Joe. Again, that's gusto.com/Joe. I'm telling you, you're going to love Gusto. Get started today. Now, when you think about your own business, what are some strategies that you use in being a public speaker, being an influencer, someone who's writing books? Like, what do you kind of apply directly to your business, and what's that look like?
I'm always working with a coach. Early on, it was more like when I created my Access membership program so that professionals could have access to legal services on demand. I had this vision and didn't know how to build it, so I hired my first business coach. And then it was for that specific project for sure, but it was also like they then were able to generally show me how to set up a business, how to run it, how to build systems, and how to do the things that you don't learn in law school. And then as the years have gone by, because that was 12 years ago, I've hired coaches for specific things. Like right now, I'm working with a coach, a speaker coach, that's helping me create live events so that I can start speaking on my own stage. And I didn't know how to do that. I'm sure I could have Googled it and figured out somehow how to do it, but someone that's already done it and has a system for it can get me there a lot faster and a lot smoother. So I hire specific coaches for specific opportunities or problems, and that's kind of been where I've been for the last 4 or 5 years. And then, or if I've got a major goal or initiative that I'm trying to get to, that it's just more than the capability that I have on my own, I need someone else to show me the action steps. So I go back to 2012. Like I said, I had this vision, but I didn't know how to get from A to K, let alone A to Z. I needed someone with a map to show me, just tell me what to do and I'll do it. No one's going to outwork me, but I need to have a plan to work. And so they were able to give me step by step. Here's what we're going to do. I would do the homework and then we move to the next step. And that's what's worked for me over the years, is having someone hold my hand so to speak, and tell me what the next step is. Because otherwise, they get busy. I mean, it's having a practice is busy. You're busy helping people, and then you're having to make sure you take care of your team and your people, and then you have to deal with vendors, and you have to make sure the bills are paid, the lights stay on, and then at some point you probably have family and loved ones that are also wanting time. And so it's
Mhm.
a lot. And by having a coach to kind of help you keep you accountable and balanced to living the life that you've promised that you want to have, that I found that to be very, very helpful.
Yeah, and I know at least when I've been in coaching and also, even just this morning working with some of my consulting clients, that there's something about setting aside that time to say, I'm going to intentionally work on the thing that's going to help me level up in a different way.
Yep.
I think sometimes when you're a counselor, it's like, I know that if I sit down and do this 45 minutes, I make X number of dollars. It sometimes can feel like if I take an hour to talk with a consultant or a coach, I'm somehow losing that money in addition to paying for that time. But the multiplier effect of moving faster, of leveling up, whether that's growing a group practice or going beyond the practice, I think that's something that people, when they're first getting going, have a hard time understanding how consulting or coaching is going to help them.
Hmm.
What do you say to that sort of mindset of thinking, oh well, it's not directly bringing in the money when I'm working with a coach or a consultant?
Yeah, I think the two things to kind of comment on that is one that you've got to move beyond seeing that as a loss. It's a You're investing the time in this other side of your business. What started me on my journey was reading Michael Gerber's the ebook E-Myth Revisited, and when I went through that book and saw how he showed you step by step how you should set up your business as a franchise, like a McDonald's, so that it worked so smoothly that you could repeat things, that it wasn't relying on talent, but it was relying on good people that could follow systems. It kind of changed my whole perspective on what I was doing because I really saw myself as I'm a lawyer, I'm a professional, I'm different. I don't have to do all these other things. And then I realized I really do. I just have to do it with a code of ethics on my back as well. And it's just more. I have to do more. And to do that, you have to work on your business instead of in it. And most of us practitioners, whether you're a legal practitioner or a mental health practitioner, you spend 90% of your time working in your business when you're dealing with patients, it's when you're dealing with clients, you're in your business. And that is not going to help you grow. It will help your cash flow, but it will not help you grow. If you ever want to grow beyond your current cash flow, you're going to have to pull back and take away a time slot that you could have seen a person and spend time either yourself working on initiatives or with a coach that can help you work on initiatives and use them as leverage. But you've got to see it as an investment of time into your business and not taking away. The other thing that helped me get over that was when I switched my model and no longer worked by the hour. And so I started dealing only with a subscription plan, and we have some flat fee consulting packages also. But nothing's ever tied back into the hour for us anymore. So I don't look at it that way. I don't look at my hours the same. It took a little while to get used to that, but I no longer see it as if I do this, I'm giving up because my rate's 500 an hour. I'm giving up $500 for spending an hour doing this. Because if you get in that trap of seeing things that way, even time with your family is a loss of revenue. And so
Yeah.
you've got to really make it. You got to get out of that mindset. And the easiest way for me to do it was making that shift to a subscription model and doing flat fee consulting projects because it just you just when you're just trading time for money and you get in that paradigm, it can be a little defeating when you start pulling away to go to conferences to learn more, to spend time with coaches. That if you don't do those things, you're going to be stuck in this pattern, and you might make a good living, but you're not going to build the life that you probably want to without taking that
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, and I think for myself, for me to just kind of know like when is enough enough. To know here's what I need for my family, and of course we can scale and grow and do those things. But like, what are those clear boundaries around my time and how to be most efficient with that? And as I've set clear boundaries on my time, it forces the team to either pick up the slack or say, hey, that's not that important. Those things that Joe isn't doing anymore. So it's like I know that I want to walk my daughter to school every morning, and she starts right before 9 a.m. And so my first meeting is until 9:30.
Yep.
I know every single day I want to pick her up from school. And so she gets out right before 4 p.m. And so my last appointment ends at 3:30. And so just being able to say, sure, I could work nonstop and we could get more podcast sponsors, we could get more consulting clients. But to me, if I look at it annually and say, kind of what's the living that I want to make? What are the hours I want to work? Are we on track towards that? And then how do I keep growing the business in a way that goes beyond my own time? That makes it a lot easier if I take off several weeks for a vacation to say this is part of the plan. I'm not taking a loss because I'm not
No,
working. I'm saying that it's based on me working X number of weeks per year. So then it's just part of that overall plan instead of looking at it hour by hour or week by week.
I love it.
Um, when you think about other areas that people are working to shatterproof their businesses, so you talked about having a good team, having regular check-ins with those team members, setting up kind of the legal structure, kind of growing outside of yourself with sort of like a franchise model or kind of more automations. If people are kind of getting to the next level, so we've got a lot of listeners that are probably a quarter of them or so are early stage practice owners and then kind of moving into solo practice, but a good half or so now are group practice owners that maybe they have 30 or 40 clinicians. When they're getting to that kind of higher level multi-million dollar practice, like how do you shatterproof that? They've already automated outside their own clinical time. They probably have an operations person. They probably have some clinical directors. Like as they kind of continue to grow into those mega practices, what do they need to think about to shatterproof that level of business?
Yeah, that's a great question, Joe, because there's a lot they need to be focusing on. First thing that I would tell them they need to look at is do they own their brand? Because if they don't own their brand, they could get to the end of this road and find out that they've got a problem. Uh, every year we get uh, clients, and then coaches will send us clients that have gotten letters that say they're called cease and desist letters that say you can no longer use this business practice name and you have to rebrand in 30 days or we're taking you to trademark court. And it's very frustrating when you're 10 years into a practice, like you're well on your way to being at what you called a mega practice, and you realize that this brand that you've been using is someone else's, right? You've climbed the ladder of success and it's leaning on someone else's building. And so you got to do that. You have to kind of do some heavy lifting work to figure out, is this brand something that can be protected? If it is something that can be protected, then you need to get it registered with the United States Patent and Trademark Office as a trademark. Then you need to make sure you police that mark and that no one else is using it to water down the value of your brand. Then you need to make sure you're using it consistently. And what that means is that you've got a branding guide. And so you have it very clearly stated how your company firm uses your brand. These are the logos that are permissible. These are the colors that are permissible, and not just red, blue, and green, but it's the hex code for those colors. It has to be exact. We have to use these fonts for headlines and these fonts for subtext. And then what kind of graphics are we able to use when we're communicating? And if say you're doing a presentation or you're creating a new page for the website, what kind of pictures can we use? Where can we get them? What does that need to look like? And you get really granular on what that should look like in that branding and style guide, so that then your team doesn't make mistakes. Because what I see a lot, not just in professional practices, but in businesses, schools, all over the place, is that you have these brands that come out looking very nice. They've hired a really good graphic artist, maybe a good marketing company, and everything looks really pretty. And then over a few months and years, people start using their own stuff and they start tweaking the logo a little bit and they're using different fonts. And suddenly you have this kind of a hodgepodge of things and it no longer really represents your brand, and it creates this incongruence. And so that when people look at your brand, not only does it look like a mess, and so they don't think as highly as they should, but even subconsciously it doesn't look right. And so it can cause you legal problems. You can have a loss of profit if you have to rebrand, and it also can be just a loss of business because people aren't going to use your practice if it doesn't look quite right. And so, as the leader of that ship of a growing mega practice, You have to really focus on and be the owner of that brand. And most practitioners are overlooking that step. And it's you've definitely got to do it as you're scaling. But it really, as you're starting a practice, you need to be having these conversations with your legal team about, hey, this is what I want to call a practice. Can I do that? Will it get me in any trouble? Can I protect it? The earlier you protect it, the better. But if you haven't done it, the best time to plant a tree was 100 years ago. The second best is now. So get after that part of your business and get it protected.
So awesome. Scott, the last question I always ask is, if every private practitioner in the world were listening right now, what would you want them to know?
I'd want them to know that it's possible to have a successful practice and a successful life. And Joe, you touched on it. You, as a professional, you get to design your life and your practice. And so take the time to design one that you like. Because if you're in a practice that you don't like and you own it, it's your fault. Take the responsibility and spend some time with yourself and make sure you understand what you want out of life in your practice, and then design it around that. Like Joe's done with spending time with his kids as they go to school and leave school. Whatever is important to you, put that into your business plan and then work the plan. And if you will do that, you'll be a lot happier, and you'll get to the end of the road and have focused on the main things.
So awesome. Scott, if people want to grab your new book, if they want to connect with you, where should we send them?
I'd love you to go get the book on Amazon. It's called The Shatterproof Entrepreneur. And you can connect with me at the Scott Reib on Instagram. And then we will have a special landing page set up just for the listeners of this show. Reiblaw.com, REIBLAW.com/practice of the practice.
So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the show today.
It's been great, Joe.
It's easy to forget about all these different things that just secure your practice, to make sure that you're looking out for how you've named things and how you're using things. And even just going back and saying, are we using our logo in the same way with the same font, with the same color? Such a great reminder. So glad to just dig into that conversation. You may be seeing that we're doing a lot more episodes recently. And part of that's because we have some amazing sponsors that have come on, but also there are so many of you that are listening that we just wanted to cover a ton of different things. If you missed our series we just did from Level Up Week, those are all recordings that we just released through the podcast from our early this year Level Up Week. The next Level Up Week is coming up in September, so just a few weeks away. So make sure you grab your spot for those different things we have going on. We have panels with different therapists that have started solo or group practices. We've got trainings on marketing, on pay-per-click, and I'm going to be leading a number of those as well. You can sign up over at practiceofthepractice.com/level up. Would absolutely love for you to hang out with us there. And we're going to be doing some special announcements about something big we're doing in May 2025. So make sure that you come to that live event so you can get those as well. Also, we do our payroll through Gusto here at Practice the Practice, and we just found out from Gusto they're going to give you 3 months totally for free. So if you want to go over to gusto.com/Joe, you can get 3 months for free over there. They do payroll taxes, they do paychecks, they help set up for open enrollment. They also can help with health insurance, 401ks, onboarding, commuter benefits, just so many different things. So make sure you head on over to gusto.com/Joe to get that free offer of 3 months totally for free. Thank you so much for letting me into your ears and into your brain. Have a great day. I'll talk to you soon. Special thanks to the band Silence is Sexy for that intro music, and this podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regard to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, the producers, the publishers, or guests are rendering legal, accounting, clinical, or other professional information. If you want a professional, you should find one.